Portable and exchange cylinders usually have one fitting that is threaded to a 3/4-inch female national pipe thread, or NPT, fitting, and raised above the surface. As a result, the fitting is often called the neck of the cylinder. A combination service valve and pressure relief valve are installed in the fitting. Vertical cylinders with 4 to 40-pound propane capacity must be fitted with an overfilling prevention device, or OPD. OPD cylinder valves are distinctively marked and equipped with a unique hand wheel in the shape of a modified triangle. The OPD marking is molded into the hand wheel and the valve body to ease identification. OPDs should not be treated as the primary means of preventing overfilling. It is still the dispenser operator's responsibility to close the hose end valve when the proper filling level has been reached. Cylinder markings. Markings are required by DOT and are the ID card for the cylinder. Markings must be legible and clearly and permanently marked on the collar or cylinder body. The markings include information for selecting cylinder valves, the specification design code, cylinder tare weight, water capacity in pounds, and the manufacturer name and test or requalification date. Cylinder size is marked by the amount of water it can hold in pounds. Propane capacity is 42% of water capacity. Portable cylinders usually range from 1 pound to 100 pounds propane capacity. The tare weight is the weight of the cylinder when empty and includes the weight of the cylinder valves, but not the filling hose and nozzle. Cylinders with the same water capacity can have different tare weights, so each cylinder should be treated individually. All refillable cylinders must be requalified at regular intervals. When reading requalification markings, a date without a letter indicates the next requalification must be within 12 years. The letter S following the date indicates the cylinder must be requalified within 7 years of the marked date. The letter E following the date indicates that requalification is required again within 5 years of the marked date. The most recent requalification date is marked on the cylinder. Cylinders that are out of qualification must not be refilled. Purging. In order for equipment to operate properly and to keep customers safe, both new cylinders that have not been vacuum purged by the manufacturer and those that have been opened to the atmosphere must be purged of air or moisture before filling. If air or moisture enters a propane cylinder, it can slow down the filling operation, create unusually high service pressures, cause regulator freeze-up, or cause fading of the odorant in the cylinder. Steps for purging cylinders with propane vapor. When purging cylinders with propane vapor, it's important to note that the steps involved may vary depending on your company policy and the type of equipment installed at the facility. Always consult your supervisor for more information. Using propane vapor to force the air out of a cylinder is an effective purging method that is often used at refilling stations. Cylinders should always be purged in an approved area where there are no ignition sources. Follow these steps to purge cylinders. Step 1. Connect the vapor hose to the cylinder. Ensure that you have the correct fittings installed when connecting the vapor hose to the cylinder service valve. If the service valve on the cylinder does not have a female POL opening, attach a cylinder service valve adapter to the POL adapter that is installed in the vapor line hose end valve. Securely tighten the vapor hose assembly to the cylinder service valve. Step 2. Pressurize the cylinder with propane vapor to 15 psig. With the service valve closed on the cylinder being purged, open the service valve on the purging cylinder. Gradually position the ball valve on the vapor hose to allow propane vapor to vent into the cylinder being purged. If no leaks are detected, open the service valve on the cylinder being purged. Observe the gauge on the purging manifold until the pressure reaches 15 psig. Step 3. Bleed off the pressure in the cylinder. Gradually position the ball valve on the vapor hose to vent a small volume of propane vapor and air until the pressure gauge reaches 0 psig. During this bleed-off process, be very cautious as a small amount of propane vapor and air will be released. Step 4. Repeat the purging process. To be sure that roughly 97% of the air has been purged from the cylinder, continue to pressurize and bleed off the pressure in the cylinder at least 4 more times. Leave the vapor return hose connected until the final purging has been completed. Then, repressurize the cylinder to 15 psig. Close the service valve on both the purging cylinder and the cylinder being purged and check the cylinder for leaks. Never purge with liquid propane. This may cause the liquid to flash into vapor, chilling the cylinder and condensing any moisture vapor on the walls. Filling cylinders. Before filling a cylinder, make sure you are aware of the following information regarding safety and handling procedures. Know your facility's fire prevention and emergency evacuation plans, including where and how to operate emergency shutdown and pump controls. Before operating a filling station, ensure there are no ignition sources within 25 feet of the points of transfer. Always put on appropriate personal protective equipment before filling cylinders. Do not allow unauthorized people in the filling area. Open the secured filling area and inspect the cylinder filling station equipment. Remove the hose from its secure storage location. If the location isn't weather protected, remove the dust cap or plug from the hose filling adapter. Please remember that an operator must be present during the entire filling procedure. Filling cylinders by weight. Cylinders with less than 200-pound water capacity and subject to DOT jurisdiction must be filled by weight. Be sure to check with your supervisor for any exceptions. When filling portable cylinders by weight, it is important to note that the steps involved may vary depending on your company policy and the type of equipment installed at the facility. Always consult your supervisor for more information. Make sure all cylinder valves are closed. Follow these steps to determine the total filled weight of a cylinder. Check the water capacity and tare weight stamped on the cylinder or its protective collar. Determine propane capacity by using the following formula. Water capacity times 0.42 equals propane capacity. Add the tare weight and propane capacity together to determine the total filled weight of the cylinder. Set the platform scale to the cylinder's total filled weight plus the weight of the hose and fitting. Place the cylinder on the scale. Select the proper hose end adapter to fit the cylinder valve. Remove the protective cap or plug from the valve. Connect to the cylinder. Start the pump. If through a filler valve, slowly open the hose end valve. If through a service valve, open the hose end valve, then slowly open the cylinder service valve. When target weight is reached, close the hose end valve. Shut off the pump if no other cylinders are filling. Make sure the service valve is closed. Loosen the connection and wait for any trapped liquid to bleed off. When trapped liquid is vented, disconnect the hose end fitting. Verify the filled weight as required by regulations. Filling cylinders by volume. Before filling cylinders by volume, open and close the vent valve on the fixed maximum liquid level gauge to be sure vapor vents. If no vapor escapes, the valve may be blocked and must be reopened before the gauge will operate properly. Do not attempt to fill a cylinder by volume if the fixed maximum liquid level gauge is damaged or inoperable. To fill cylinders by volume, make sure all cylinder valves are closed. Select the proper hose end adapter to fit the filler valve or service valve. Remove the protective cap from the valve. Connect to the cylinder. Open the vent valve on the fixed maximum liquid level gauge. If mist appears when the gauge is opened, stop. The cylinder is already full. Start the pump. If through a filler valve, slowly open the hose end valve. If through a service valve, open the hose end valve and then slowly open the cylinder service valve. When a white mist begins to escape from the fixed maximum liquid level gauge, immediately close the hose end valve. Close the vent valve on the fixed maximum liquid level gauge. Failure to shut off the propane promptly will result in an overfilled cylinder. An overfilled cylinder may discharge propane if the temperature rises, posing a risk of fire or personal injury to anyone nearby. Shut off the pump if no other cylinders are filling. Make sure the cylinder service valve is closed. Loosen the connection and wait for any trapped liquid to bleed off. When trapped liquid has vented, disconnect the hose end fitting. Features of vehicle-mounted ASME tanks. There are several variations of vehicle-mounted ASME tanks. All variations are equipped with ASME data plate, fixed maximum liquid level gauge, relief valve, 1 3/4 inch Acme filler valve, float gauge that displays approximate liquid level. A fixed maximum liquid level gauge is installed in the ASME tank at the maximum liquid filling line. Motor fuel tank float gauges are used to confirm the liquid level before and after filling and to alert the driver to the approximate liquid fuel level. They are not used for filling. A separate heavy metal guard or ring protects float gauges. The filler valve assembly may include a stop-fill auto-stop valve that acts as an overfill protection device similar to those used in portable DOT cylinders. These will be flange-mounted to the tank instead of threaded. Filling procedures for vehicle-mounted ASME tanks used for RVs, catering trucks, or in roofing applications are similar to those for motor fuel tanks with one important addition. RV tanks are used to supply propane appliances that are possible ignition sources. Therefore, it is critically important that appliance pilots and electronic ignition systems are turned off. Notify the vehicle operator that you are turning the propane fuel supply off at the service valve. Be sure that pilots and ignition systems are off. Always put on appropriate personal protective equipment before starting the filling operation. Set the propane meter to 0. Connect the motor fuel hose to the tank fill valve. Open the vent valve on the brass fixed maximum liquid level gauge and check for flow. If vapor appears, continue the filling process. If liquid appears, stop the filling process because the tank is full. Start the pump and slowly open the valve on the end of the hose. When a steady white mist or fog is first emitted from the fixed maximum liquid level gauge or the OPD stops the flow, immediately close the hose end valve. Close the fixed maximum liquid level gauge. Shut off the pump. Slowly loosen the filler adapter to vent liquid propane trapped between the filler adapter and the motor fuel tank filler valve. Wait until propane stops venting before completely disconnecting the adapter, and replace the dust cap.